The March 3rd legislative session of the Anne Arundel County Council is called to order. Please ensure all phones and electronic devices are set to silence. Please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please pray in a manner consistent with your beliefs as I pray in a manner consistent with mine. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together this evening as we conduct the business of the County Council. We thank you for the diverse community we all live in. We ask on this day that you lead us to value and to celebrate our diversity and to recognize and to offer up on the altar of our common purpose the distinctive gifts by which we enrich each other and our mission. Help us to cherish both our talents and our interdependence as we make common cause in the service of you and all your people. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we open our discussions and public hearings, I would like to remind everyone in attendance, whether testifying or as a member of the audience, that we must maintain decorum at all times within these chambers. Please understand that individual conversations in the audience are very disruptive to the proceedings, and I would kindly ask you to step out of the chambers if a side discussion is necessary. We will now open our invitation to the audience. This is an opportunity to speak briefly on any subject not included in the printed agenda. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 3 pieces which have been shared with the Council, added to the record, and posted to the website. But before we continue, I'd like to read the ethics statement.
Oh, it was not on my agenda, on my script. So I skipped it. No, I did. I skipped it. I'm sorry. It was there. I skipped it. Go for it.
Thank you. The Ethics Commission has asked that I advise you that under certain circumstances, members of the public may qualify as lobbyists when they testify before the County Council. If so, the law requires that certain information be filed with the Ethics Commission. The chair of the Ethics Commission has asked that those who wish to testify in any form review the general information on lobbying sheet located on the Ethics website under Forms and Publications. If there are any questions about lobbying requirements, please contact the Ethics Commission at 410-222-4412.
There we go. And did we get any online testimony? Yes.
Yes, we have 3 pieces which have been shared, and we can proceed.
Great. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts using our online testimony tool. Kurt Svensson and James Holman. Mr. Svensson.
Hi, Kurt Svensson, Arnold. Why is a public hearing granted for some resolutions but not others? It seems kind of arbitrary. So I read the county charter section on legislative procedure. It states, the county council shall proceed only by ordinance or resolution. That's it. It then defines in plain language those acts of the county council which shall be done by ordinance and those which shall be done by resolution. I'm just going to highlight some of the differentiating language, and I'm quoting. Those acts of the county council shall be done by ordinance which make an appropriation or which authorize the conveyance of any lands of the county. Resolution shall mean a measure adopted by the county council which is of a temporary or administrative nature. Because of the diminutive definition, the rest of this charter section focuses solely on ordinances. The charter is silent with respect to resolutions when it comes to requirements like procedures for passing them, including any requirements for public hearings. I'm sure the Office of Law has a rationale for why some of the county council's actions are being done by resolution, even though without those actions, certain appropriations would not be. Sounds like making an appropriation. And in other instances, the acquisition of specific land would not otherwise be authorized. But even if we assume these ordinance-like actions can legally be done by resolution, there's still this thing called trust. Can the county council simply choose not to grant a public hearing on a resolution just because? 15 of the 52 resolutions in 2024 were not granted a public hearing. More importantly, what assurances do we citizens have that the 37 resolutions that were granted public hearings will be treated this way in the future? There needs to be accountability, and that starts with writing down the rules and getting public input on those rules. Thank you.
Mr. Svensson. Mr. Holman.
Good evening, Madam Chair and County Council members. My name is James Holman. I reside at 1546 Meyer Station Road within the boundaries of the Forks of the Patuxent. Anne Arundel County has a stormwater management plan for when developments are approved and built. Two Rivers Development is adjacent to our property. They have submitted a stormwater management plan to Anne Arundel County and failed to follow the county stormwater management plan. They were deceptive by not submitting all pertinent information, written permissions to discharge on private property, to the county, and the county also failed to follow up on their own stormwater management plan. The individual who approved Two Rivers stormwater management plan failed to recognize that written permissions from private property owners to discharge stormwater on private property was required and not included in the Two River plan for discharging stormwater onto private property. The developers channeled stormwater to run on private property, and the county allowed it. The county stated that they only approved the plan submitted by Two Rivers engineers. Now let's fast forward to today. Two Rivers has submitted an application to planning and zoning for an additional 377 homes. In their application, Two Rivers has failed to mention there is a restriction on the land they wish to build on. This restriction is a signed document recorded with the land with My Community and Two Rivers developer. Once again, they have omitted important and factual information to the county. I can only hope this time our county reviews the deed and the plat for the land in which Two Rivers wishes to build on to see that there are restrictions and not approve the submitted plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak? Please come up to the table and state your name, address, and topic before making your remarks. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Yes, sir.
John Pantelides, 1609 Virginia Street. The county's hospital Memorial Park final report fails to provide any meaningful affordable housing. Only 27 units of affordable housing and 65 beds of transitory housing in one building on the entire 500-acre site. The huge difference between our proposal, A New Beginning, and the county's is that we use the majority of the 500 acres to meet pressing countywide needs with a priority to affordable housing for our veterans, seniors, workforce, and service workers. The county has a program right now where surplus lots are provided with a 30-year lien, so the eligible person only has to qualify for the building materials, thus making home ownership a reality. We give land to schools, parks, environmental, arts centers. Surely using land at Crownsville, which will be paid back for affordable housing, is important. There was input to the county's plan, but it came primarily from those communities close to the site who don't want to see any development. We are calling for a robust outreach to the other 6 councilmatic districts to determine what the majority want to see at Crownsville. There were no totals or subtotals given, but we came up with $202,433,646, which the county acknowledges is not accurate because numerous expenses were left out. I suggest we have the county auditor do a full analysis. Very troubled seeing $2 million for a water fountain and huge investments to create a park. Please read just pages 2 to 6 of the final report to clearly understand the county's misguided vision. Other than expenses for maintenance and life safety issues, we strongly suggest that you do not approve any further expenditures to implement the county's proposed master plan for Crownsville, and please take a look at our proposal. Remember now, Crownsville belongs to all the people.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Minahan.
Good evening. Matt Minahan, Edgewater, Maryland, Chair of the Growth Action Network. Madam Chair, Council, good to see you tonight. As the Council has considered and passed important landmark legislation increasing housing availability in the county, the resistance that I hear from most citizens is a resistance about traffic and the increased traffic that additional density will cause. The county has an easy solution. And let me just say that the traffic studies that are done mostly by one company in this county have citizens have no faith in those traffic studies because they've proven time after time to be incorrect. And they've proven time after time to provide inaccurate data and estimates that are too low for the reality. The county has a simple solution to this problem, and that is for the county to take over the contracting of these traffic studies. Right now, the contracting is left up to the developer. And when the developer is selecting the contractor and paying the bill, we know whose favor the judgments are going to go. If the county took this over in the Department of Public Works and charged back to the developer the time it takes to contract for that study, and if the county kept a roster of companies that could do this work and rotated the assignments through the roster, citizens would have a better sense of independence. Citizens would have a better sense that these traffic studies could be trusted. The county would act as a broker on behalf of the citizens, and the traffic studies would be done on behalf of the citizens of the county and not the developers. We encourage the administration to do this. We hope the council will put more pressure on the administration to take this function internally and to provide confidence to the citizens that it's being done well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minahan. So the invitation to audience is now closed. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda? Okay. May I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution, or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the minutes of February 18th, 2025.
The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 7:02 p.m. It was opened with the invocation given by Mr. Volke and was followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Scouts of America Troop 192. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 18th, 2025?
Ledbetter, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes of February 18th, 2025 stand approved as read. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the bills to be introduced this evening.
Bill number 2225, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, adequate school facilities, school utilization chart. Bill number 2325, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, youth advisory council membership. Bill number 2425, an ordinance concerning zoning, regional commercial complexes.
Secretary, please read the titles of the resolutions to be introduced.
We do not have any resolutions to be introduced this evening.
All right. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 525.
Resolution number 525, resolution amending portions of Titles 3 and 5 of the Rules of Procedure of the County Council.
So this is a resolution, a charter amendment passed in November to require that the County Council abide by the Open Meetings Act of Maryland, and this is just language adding that language from the charter into our rules so that we can now fully follow the Open Meetings Act and also be able to move and do some work in closed session as required, as authorized through the Open Meetings Act. So do I have any comments or questions from my colleagues? Okay. So administration, do you have anything you want to weigh in? Okay. No discussion. We will now open the public hearing on resolution number 525. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on resolution number 525? I knew it, Mr. Svensson. Come on up.
I actually really don't have any testimony on this. I just am surprised that you actually called a public hearing on this, because on similar resolutions you didn't do so. So I'm not prepared. But I guess again, this highlights, getting back to my earlier testimony, what's what? So I really recommend that you update your rules to kind of explain what resolutions do not get public hearings and what resolutions do. It's not a big deal. It's just, I as a citizen am very concerned that there are resolutions that are very ordinance-like, those contingency resolutions that are used for the grants and for advanced land acquisition specific parcels. Those need to be given the respect of a public hearing. And they have been, but with this practice of sometimes public hearings, sometimes not, I'm afraid that's going to start slipping away. I want to let you know, at least I am watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Svensson. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on resolution number 525? So, all right. So the public hearing on resolution number 525 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 525.
Resolution number 525, resolution amending portions of Titles 3 and 5 of the Rules of Procedure of the County Council.
No further discussion? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on resolution number 525.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Radvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Resolution number 525 has been adopted.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 825.
Bill number 825, an ordinance concerning current expense budget, Board of Education, supplementary appropriation and transfer of funds.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Matt Stansky, the Chief Financial Officer of Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and Lori Blair Klossmeyer, our Deputy County Attorney. Bill 825 is a supplementary appropriation and transfer of funds at the request of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. It amends the FY 2025 expense budget by making a second quarter operating supplemental appropriation and transfer in the amount of $18,421,900 as a result of additional revenue from various federal and state grants, as well as transferring funds between categories. No additional county funding is involved in the bill. This supplemental appropriation and fund transfer was approved by the Board of Ed on December 18th, 2024. The complete list of the fund sources and where the appropriations are going is in Exhibit 2 of the fiscal note, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Stansky for additional comments.
Thank you. For the record, Matt Stansky, Chief Financial Officer. Mr. Hunt alluded to $18.4 million in additional federal and state revenue. Majority of this is federal, either adjusting for annual grants. We had budgeted lower than anticipated or higher than anticipated, and carryover of any prior grants that have multi-year authorization, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Is there any discussion? Okay. Madam, we will now open the public hearing on bill number 825. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up to speak ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on bill number 825? Come on up, Mr. Svensson. Please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Go for it, Mr. Svensson.
Okay, Kurt Svensson, Arnold, Maryland. I really wasn't planning on coming up here. I just heard something. Exhibit 2, is that available in paper here? I don't know if it is. Exhibit 2 that has more detail, somebody mentioned. Yeah, it's just not clear to me, and I am a former budget guy, about how much of this is grant federal funds as opposed to the unrestricted fund, if any, and I'm assuming Exhibit 2 maybe clarified that.
Mr.
If
Volk.
anybody knows.
It would clarify it, but in the bill itself, it tells you. So if you look on page 2, it has the line under section 1, federal, state, and local restricted grant funds. Those are the grant funds. And if you look under section 2, it tells you that 50,000 is being moved from administration, 123.7 is moved from pupil transportation, and 186.2 is moved from fixed charges. So those are.
So that's the
funds.
local education fund there. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I just, okay, very good.
Okay.
Thanks. But Exhibit 2 is available. That's another detail exhibit.
Yes. Is it available online?
Is it available online? Oh, Exhibit 2 is the fiscal note. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, anyone else? All right, the public hearing on Bill number 825 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 825.
Bill number 825, an ordinance concerning current expense budget, Board of Education supplementary appropriation and transfer of funds.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Mr. Volk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just again to follow up on what we were talking about. So if you do look at the fiscal note that's attached to this bill, on the second page, there is a very detailed description of how the $18.4 million from federal funds is laid out and where those funds come from. The vast majority, $12.3 million, I'm doing Mr. Sansky's job for him, but I'm also just trying to help, is $12.3 million. So that's a big chunk of it. There's some money for the IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act, that's $1.17 million. Maryland Leads, $2.6 million. So you can see all of that. That's laid out in the fiscal note. So if anybody has any questions about what exactly the source of the money is, you can see it right there.
Mr. Stansky, anything you want to add to that?
I'll just, Mr. Folke will take your resume next time we have an opening.
So, Mr. Hunt, anything else?
Oh, no, that's it.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 825.
Mr. Smith. Aye. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 825 has passed.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 225 as amended.
Bill number 225, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, zoning, development requirements for particular types of development, redevelopment.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Jansen Evelyn, our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Land Use, Jenny Dempsey, our Planning and Zoning Officer, and Lori Blair Klossmeyer, our Deputy County Attorney. So I know we have spoken about this bill at several prior hearings, and at the work session, it is a reintroduction of a prior bill that seeks to incentivize and simplify the redevelopment process for existing development sites, modeled on the Glen Burnie Sustainable Community Overlay Area bill that was passed a couple years ago. So happy to answer any questions. I know there's some amendments that we'll discuss at the appropriate time.
Okay. Any discussions, questions from my colleagues? Okay. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 225 as amended. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, we received 9 pieces which have been shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. We have one person who has signed up to speak ahead of time, Dr. Linda Bonner.
Good evening, council members. Thank you. My name is Linda Bonner. I am the Attainable Housing Chair for Anne Arundel, Connecting Together, representing nearly 24,000 people throughout Anne Arundel County, which is actually in all of your council districts. ACT goes on record as strongly supporting Bill 225, the ordinance for redevelopment, but only if the council members remove the amendments that were passed last meeting, Amendments 4, 7, and 8, that were voted upon providing, excluding certain portions of the county from redevelopment aspects. The actions taken by the council members to do this are both alarming and concerning. They're alarming because it's a repeat performance of what occurred in the Region 4 planning process last year. It's denying people the opportunity to have options for affordable housing through good policies. The message received from those actions are clearly NIMBY and racist, and they are also pushing the historic pattern of segregation housing policies that were once in the county. I thought we were beyond that. I thought we were working together to attain affordable housing. We know council members represent your own district, but you also represent other people in the district, and the impacts of your actions really are important messages to us. We've been fighting the zoning and land use decisions as the biggest barriers to get affordable housing accomplished in the county. And one of the interesting things that's occurring in the regional planning process is that none of the regional plans with the stakeholder advisory committees or the planning advisory board are stepping up to say, hey, we want to target X number of affordable housing units in our district. Please pass a new amendment and redact those old amendments on February 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 225? Okay. Please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Max Gross, Annapolis, Maryland. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Anne Arundel County Association of Realtors, reaffirming our support of the redevelopment bill. I do want to chime in on a similar note of the testimony we just heard, but just to mention that there is so much work to be done on housing in our county, and I very much recognize that traffic is really one of the main deterrents. And I feel like we have a lot of work as advocates, myself, and as leaders, yourselves, to help our communities understand that we can reduce traffic with development. We actually get more traffic with less development because people are driving farther and farther and farther every day to do their basic needs. We need mixed use. We need mixed-use developments, we need housing-to-jobs ratios, we need affordable housing, and we need it in all of our districts. That is all.
Thank you. Mr. Minahan.
Thank you again, Matt Minahan, Chair of the Growth Action Network. We've been working with OPZ quite intensively on this bill and are very appreciative of Lynn Miller's responses to our questions and concerns about the bill. Based on what we've learned from Lynn and the testimony here, we're very happy to support the bill. There's much to like about it. We're pleased that the community meetings have been restored to this bill, not once, but twice. We've advocated for that. We appreciate that it's retained in this bill, that a second community meeting was added. Mixed use has been added to the bill. We also appreciate that the bill will take effect concurrent with the Housing Attainability Act. These two bills, plus the recent mixed use bill, will be useful tools for shaping development and redevelopment in the county. However, there are a few things we'd still like to see changed. We believe the bill should apply to more areas of the county than the targeted development and redevelopment and revitalized policy areas specialized in the bill. We would support any effort to repeal the amendments affecting Regions 8 and 9 and Route 3. And we'd also like to see more focus on the redevelopment, which provides housing, and that should be encouraged in all redevelopment, but especially in employment centers. And finally, on traffic, please mandate that the county take over the traffic studies and grant the citizens more confidence that they're being done independently. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Maryland. I sat in the back and I wasn't going to come up, but I struggle. I come here meeting after meeting and I hear a struggle with the word affordable housing. And I think the county's business is responsible development. I live on the Pasadena Peninsula. I know what raising the density will do. I know what the traffic is. I agree. If you're going to think about this kind of stuff, you got to start from scratch. We heard somebody talk about Columbia at a meeting not too long ago. You can't walk into a space that's already built out, doesn't have the infrastructure, and start raising the density. It just doesn't work. So I'm not against affordable housing. I am for responsible development. And when I read these bills, they kind of cast a broad net across the county, and it's going to take somebody to sort through what works and what doesn't work in those areas. I think you heard a little earlier today about traffic studies and who should do them and who shouldn't do them because the books get cooked. I'm just going to tell you the way it is. I just ask that you think long and hard and make sure as you make these decisions, you're not creating a trap for areas that are already overloaded.
Thank you, sir. So the public hearing on Bill number 225 as amended is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 225 as amended.
Bill number 225, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, zoning, development requirements for particular types of development, redevelopment.
Okay. We have one amendment this evening. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 12.
Amendment number 12. This amendment requires the Office of Planning and Zoning to issue a yearly report to the council on redevelopment.
Okay. Ms. Pickard, this is your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is basically an amendment that would require the Office of Planning and Zoning to issue a yearly report to the council on current redevelopment concept, presenting us with the current redevelopment concept plan checklist, the number of redevelopment applications received, and the number of redevelopment applications approved. Very similar to what we do for the accessory dwelling unit policy we passed a few years ago. Motion to adopt.
Is there any discussion? Administration?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We appreciate the sponsor of the amendment reaching out to our staff and discussing this concept with us. We're comfortable with this amendment.
All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 12.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Radvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 12 has been adopted.
Okay. Bill number 225 as amended will be heard on March 17th, 2025. So now we'll move on. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of Bill number 325 and Bill number 425 as amended.
Bill number 325, an ordinance concerning General Development Plan, Region 9 Plan. Bill number 425, an ordinance concerning comprehensive zoning, Region 9.
All right. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. Joining me at the table are Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Christina Pomp, our deputy planning and zoning officer, Cindy Carrier, our planning administrator, and Eric Ketterling, our senior planner. So we've discussed these two bills a number of times as well. These are the these ordinances are for the adoption of the region plan and comprehensive zoning for Region Area 9, which covers the Mayo Peninsula, Galesville, West River, Shadyside, Churchton, Deal, Tracy's Landing, North Beach, parts of Edgewater, and Friendship. I'll turn it over to Ms. Pomp if she has any additional comments, and I know we have some amendments to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Pompa with the Office of Planning and Zoning. At this time, we don't have any comments. We are planning to keep our comments brief this evening when we discuss the amendments, but we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay. We will now open the joint public hearing on Bill number 325 and Bill number 425. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received one piece for Bill 325, and we have received 4 pieces for Bill 425, which have been shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We have no one signed up tonight to testify ahead of time. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on bills number 325 and 425? Okay, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Mr. Minahan.
Good evening again. I'm not here as chair of Growth Action Network. I'm here as a citizen who is a member of the Region 9 Stakeholder Advisory Committee. As you guys complete your work on the Region 9 bills, just want to speak to that process and what it was like. We worked for about 9 months on the housing, transportation, environmental, employment, water, sewer, land use, and zoning opportunities in the region. The SAC was a well-balanced group, well chosen to represent the varied interests of the diverse economy and population of the area. We were all good-hearted, well-intentioned citizens wanting to do what's best for our communities, but we're all just citizens, uninformed and illiterate on most of the complicated land use matters that were before us, open space and zoning and differences between C1, 2, 3, and 4. We were hugely supported and could not have done this work without the incredible staff of OPZ who were assigned to our group. Eric Ketterling, Jessica Levy, Michael Stringer, Cindy Carrier, and Christina Pompa were patient in answering our questions, sometimes multiple times. They explained the boundaries of our roles and our work. They helped explain the difference between land use and zoning, the implication of building in and near the critical area, and the environmental protections offered in the code. I wish every citizen had the opportunity to benefit from our work and those of you in Regions 5, 6, and 8. I strongly encourage you to drop in or view any of these meetings online. Make me proud to be a taxpayer in this county. I also want to shout out to Councilwoman Ledbetter, who in the past 3 weeks has conducted 3 in-person meetings with citizens in the region, asking questions and fielding suggestions. The last 2 sessions had almost 100 people in attendance twice. Most had questions, some had ideas, a few had requests. Thanks to Councilwoman Ledbetter for organizing these meetings and for their contribution to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Manhan. The joint public hearing on bills number 325 and 425 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bills number 325 and 425 as amended.
Bill number 325, an ordinance concerning General Development Plan, Region 9 Plan. Bill number 425, an ordinance concerning Comprehensive Zoning, Region 9.
All right. There is one amendment to bill number 425. Madam Secretary, for the upcoming amendments requiring signs for at least 10 days before this legislative session, were signs posted on the subject property and was notice of the proposed change of zoning posted to the County Council website?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 3.
Amendment number 3. This amendment changes the zoning of a portion of the property known as Parcel 71, Lot 2 on Tax Map 68, located at 4840 Muddy Creek Road, Churchton, from OS Open Space to RA Rural Agricultural.
Okay. Ms. Ledbetter, this is your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment is very simple. The property owner has some inconsistent zoning on their property, and they're looking to change the open space to RA. There is no development potential on this property because there is a county conservation easement on it. And so she's just looking to have the consistent zoning across the entire parcel nonetheless. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Administration?
Just to be brief, OPZ, we support this amendment, and I'll answer any questions if there are any.
All right. No more questions. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 3.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Radvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 3 to Bill 425 has been adopted.
May I have a motion to hold the vote on Bill number 325 until March 17th, 2025?
Ledbetter, so moved.
Second.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to hold the vote on Bill number 325 until March 17th, 2025.
Mr. Smith? Ms. Pickard? Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Radvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold the vote on Bill 325 until March 17th has passed.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just have a moment for, thank you. I just wanted to publicly, Mr. Minahan was nice enough to give me credit for the community meetings that were organized, but I want to recognize the Region 9 team, without whom I could have never pulled off those meetings, just printing the maps, being there to help answer some of the more technical questions that constituents had. You were definitely part of that lift, and credit where credit is due. Thank you very much.
All right. Bill number 425, as amended, will be heard again on March 17th, 2025. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of Bills number 925 and Bill number 1025.
Bill number 925, an ordinance concerning General Development Plan, Region 1 Plan. Bill number 1025, an ordinance concerning Comprehensive Zoning, Region 1.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's mostly the same lineup as the last two bills. So I have Christina Pompa, our Deputy Planning and Zoning Officer, Cindy Carrier, our Planning Administrator, and Mark Wildonger, our Senior Planner, as well as Kelly Kenny, from our Supervising County Attorney from the Office of Law. So these two bills are for the adoption of the Region 1 Plan and comprehensive rezoning, which covers North County communities of Linthicum Heights, Brooklyn Park, Curtis Bay, Ferndale, as well as parts of Hanover and Severn. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. Is there any objection to a joint public hearing on bills number 925 and 1025? Okay. We will now open the joint public hearing on bills number 925 and bill number 1025. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, we don't have any individuals that have signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on bill number 925 and or bill number 1025? Okay. The joint public hearing on bills number 925 and 1025 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bills number 925 and 1025.
Bill number 925, an ordinance concerning General Development Plan, Region 1 Plan. Bill number 1025, an ordinance concerning Comprehensive Zoning, Region 1.
There is one amendment to bill number 1025. Madam Secretary, for the upcoming amendments requiring signs for at least 10 days before this legislative session, were signs posted on the subject property and was notice of the proposed change of zoning posted to the County Council website?
Signs were not required for this amendment, but it has been published on our website for the last 10 days.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1 to Bill 1025. This amendment changes the zoning of certain properties in and around the 1400 block of Hanover Road and the 7500 block of Ridge Road, Hanover, from C2 Commercial Office to C4 Highway Commercial.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This particular amendment changes a C2 commercial stretch of parcels to C4. It is directly catty corner from Arundel Mills Boulevard, or Arundel Mills Complex, right as you exit off of 100 to go into the Arundel Mill, the opposite direction going towards the BWI Airport car rental place. It's an area that is ideal for additional mixed-use development, which you'll see hopefully here in the near future, as well as this parcel. It is adjacent to another parcel that is C4 on the 176 portion of the land, and definitely fits into the, at least in my vision, of what should be occurring in that area in the coming years to come. So, motion to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Smith or Ms. Pickard, do y'all have any discussion? Or?
Oh,
okay.
Oh, and this does have the consent of the property owner as well, so it isn't just me trying to change it. It's in coordination with the property owner who requested this as well. So just FYI.
Administration?
Mark Wildonger, OPZ offers no objection, and we would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any other questions? All
I
right.
have a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Volkey.
Thank you. I'm looking at exhibit number A to the amendment, and that doesn't sort of fully do justice to it. So I pulled up an aerial and then looking at it from the satellite view. So it looks like there are these two parcels that are right behind the red highlighted area that are also C2 and are not going to C4, but they also seem to be only accessible, at least if I'm looking at the right place, by like the same sort of property, if you will. Like the ingress egress, it does not look like you're going to come off of Route 100 on that off ramp there and be able to get access to this property. So you're likely going to have to come off Dorsey Road, or you're going to have to do something off of Arundel Mills Boulevard. My point in asking this question is, why are we not changing the zoning on those properties too? Does it make sense to do all of them together? Is there some objection to doing it? What's the thought process with that? Just when we're thinking in a comprehensive way, it seems like those might be appropriate to take to a C4 zoning as well, just because of where they're located.
So I can chime in. So that first portion that's on the map, if you're looking here, that's state highways land. And so it's literally, if you're coming off Arundel Mills Boulevard, or I'm sorry, 100 going westbound, and you get off on that exit, it is literally the parcel of land right there. But it is state highway. I think there's a process, and obviously we didn't, I don't know if I didn't coordinate with them to change it, but it was state highway that was responsible for that intersection, or that parcel. Is that correct?
Correct. For the parcel on Arundel Mills Boulevard, and then the L-shaped parcel is privately held. So if the zoning were to change, then they would need to apply, and signage would be required.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Mr. Smith? Ms. Pickard? Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Radvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 to Bill 1025 has been adopted.
May I have a motion to hold the vote on Bill number 925 until March 17th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to hold the vote on Bill number 925 until March 17th, 2025.
Mr. Smith? Aye. Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey? Aye. Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Radvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold the vote to Bill number 925 until March 17th has passed.
Bill number 1025, as amended, will be heard again on March 17th, 2025. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of Bill number 1125 and Bill number 1225.
Bill number 1125, an ordinance concerning General Development Plan, Region 3 Plan. Bill number 1225, an ordinance concerning Comprehensive Zoning, Region 3.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I still have Christina Pompa from the department, our Deputy Planning and Zoning Officer, Cindy Carrier, our Planning Administrator, as well as Patrick Hughes, our Senior Planner for Region 3, and Kelly Kenny, our Supervising County Attorney. These two ordinances are for the adoption of the Region Plan and Comprehensive Zoning for Region Planning Area Number 3, which covers the communities of Glen Burnie, Severn, and a portion of Millersville. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Is there any objection to a joint public hearing on bills number 1125 and 1225? No. Okay. We will now open the joint public hearing on bill number 1125 and bill number 1225. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, we will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting, and there are none. So is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on bills number 1125 and or 1225? Okay. The joint public hearing on bill number 1125 and 1225 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 1125 and 1225.
Bill number 1125, an ordinance concerning General Development Plan, Region 3 Plan. Bill number 1225, an ordinance concerning Comprehensive Zoning, Region 3.
Okay. there's going to be some back and forth between these two bills as we do amendments to keep the same properties together. So listen carefully to the amendments and the numbers as we go through. Madam Secretary, for the upcoming amendments requiring signs for at least 10 days before this legislative session, were signs posted on the subject property and was notice of the proposed change of zoning posted to the County Council website?
Signs were not required for these amendments, but the notice was put up on our website for at least 10 days.
Okay. There are 6 amendments for Bill number 1125 and 4 amendments for Bill number 1225. Madam Secretary, please read Amendment number 1 to Bill number 1125.
Bill number 1. This amendment changes the planned land use for the property known as Lot 1 of Parcel 445, Lot 3 of Parcel 272, and Parcels 492, 493, and 495 on Tax Map 21, located at No Number Reese Road and No Number Jacobs Road, Severn, from low-medium density residential to high-density residential.
And this is my amendment. This is a property that abuts another area that is already R15, and this would simply move this property up to that same zoning to be consistent with the ones behind there. And the owner of this property has already discussed with the single-family home properties that are encircled by this property. They've already had discussions and worked out entryway and forest conservation around that area. So may I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
All right, is there any discussion? Okay, administration?
Patrick Hughes, Office of Planning and Zoning. We have no objection.
Okay. All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Amendment number 1 to Bill number 1125.
Mr. Smith. Aye. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Radbian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 to Bill 1125 has been adopted.
Please read Amendment number 1 to Bill number 1225.
Amendment number 1 to Bill 1225. This amendment changes the zoning of the property known as Lot 1 of Parcel 445, Lot 3 of Parcel 272, and Parcels 492, 493, and 495 on Tax Map 21, located at No Number Reese Road and No Number Jacobs Road, Severn, from R5 residential to R15 residential.
And this is the companion bill to the previous one that we just did, just bring things in together. So may I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Administration? We're all good? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Amendment number 1 to Bill number 1225.
Mr. Smith. Aye. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Radbian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 to Bill 1225 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read Amendment number 2 to Bill number 1125.
Amendment number 2 to Bill 1125. This amendment changes the planned land use for the property known as Parcels 69, 661, and 38, including lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 on Tax Map 16, located at 7824 and 7840 Freetown Road, open space, 209, 207, 205, and 203 Allison Drive, and a private right-of-way, Glen Burnie, from low-medium density residential to medium density residential.
Mr. Volkey, this is your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, as was expressed, this takes the zoning from low, medium density. It's going to take it from R5 to R15. There is R15 directly across the street on the other side of New Freetown Road already. This is less than a half mile away from Mountain Road, where the road was just expanded to 5 lanes. It's just down the street from the access to Route 10. So this is an area of the county that already has some density, and this will allow the property here to be used to be able to put potentially some additional residences on there in an area of the county that certainly is somewhere that is at least closer to some of these main roads that we're looking for when we're looking at places where density should occur. So with that, I ask my colleagues to support the amendment. Move the amendment.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Administration? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 2 to Bill number 1125.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 2 to Bill 1125 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 2 to Bill number 1225.
Amendment number 2 to Bill 1225. This amendment changes the zoning of the property known as parcel 69, 661, and 38, including lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 on tax map 16, located at 7824 and 7840 Freetown Road, open space 209, 207, 205, and 203 Allison Drive, and a private right-of-way Glen Burnie from R5 residential to R10 residential.
Mr. Volkey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I misspoke when I said it was going to R15. It's R5 to R10, not R15. So you all might have caught that when I said it. Thank you. But appreciate you not correcting me, but yeah. So this, again, same property. This is the corresponding zoning change. We've changed the land use, so now we're coming back to change the zoning. So again, it takes it to R10. The surrounding properties are R5, and on the other side of the street, they are R15. So with that, ask my colleagues support, move the amendment.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Administration? Okay. All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 2 to Bill number 1220.
Mr. Smith. Aye. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer. 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 2 to Bill 1225 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 3 to Bill number 1125.
Amendment number 3 to Bill 1125. This amendment changes the portion for a portion of the property known as parcel 378 on tax map 9 located at new number Crane Highway Southeast, Glen Burnie, the planned land use from high-density residential to commercial, and for a portion of the same property changes the development policy area from neighborhood preservation to town center.
Ms. Pickard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property mentioned in this amendment and the one following it is an existing electrical business fronting on Crane Highway that has a long, skinny lot. The existing zoning is C4 at the front on Crane and R15 at the rear portion of the lot. Due to outside storage on the property, they are in a non-conforming use because of where the split from C4 to R15 is currently drawn. During the PAB process, site plan was submitted to request an adjustment in the location of the split zoning. That's what this amendment achieves, and thereby removing the non-conforming use. Motion to adopt.
Is there any discussion? Administration?
We support this amendment.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 3 to Bill number 1125.
Mr. Smith. Aye. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 3 to Bill 1125 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 3 to Bill number 1225.
Amendment number 3 to Bill 1225. This amendment changes the zoning of a portion of the property known as parcel 378 on tax map 9, located at no number Crane Highway Southeast, Glen Burnie, from a split of R15 residential and C4 highway commercial to C4 highway commercial.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The same explanation applies. This is actually now the corresponding amendment to rezone to a complete C4, removing the split zoning. Motion to adopt.
Okay. Any discussion? Administration?
We support.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 3 to Bill number 1225.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard. Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 3 to Bill 1225 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 4 to Bill number 1125.
Amendment number 4. This amendment changes the planned land use from low medium density residential to commercial, the developed policy area from neighborhood preservation to critical corridor, and the development policy area overlay from no overlay to commercial revitalization and redevelopment overlay for the property known as Lot B, parcel 453 on tax map 9F located at no number Georgia Avenue Northwest, Glen Burnie.
Ms. Pickard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The corresponding, this amendment and the following one are in regard to an existing flooring business fronting on Crane Highway that has an L-shaped lot. The current zoning is C3 for the front parcel and R5 for the rear parcel. This amendment changes the zoning, well, this amendment changes the planned land use, but making the entire parcel C4. There are adjacent C4 properties, and the R4-5 portion in the rear is landlocked and wraps around a large existing C4 property. Zoning the entire parcel as C4, and therefore Town Center planned land use allows the business to use the rear portion for loading and parking. Motion to adopt.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Administration?
We have an objection to this.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 4 to bill number 1225.
Amendment
Madam
number
Chair.
4 to bill 1125.
I just have one question real quick.
Oh, yeah.
So, because we're have meeting, not that it matters, because I'll take either or. So you support or no objection? I've heard them twice. Is there a specific reason you use the verbiage on some amendments and not others? Just curious.
No, the prior amendment further south on Crane Highway, that amendment was in line with our intended representation on the map. It was an error on our part. This is a new amendment.
Check.
So that hence the
It
verbiage.
just caught my ear a couple times, that's why. No problem. I'm still supporting it, but yeah, thank you.
All right. Where were we?
Calling the roll.
Please call the roll on amendment number 4 to bill number 1225.
Bill, the roll is for amendment number 4 to bill 1125.
Oh, okay. Sorry. There we go.
So
On
close, not yet though. Mr. Smith.
1125.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 4 to bill 1125 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 4 to bill number 1225.
Amendment number 4. This amendment changes the zoning of the property known as Lot B, Parcel 453, and Lot 1A, Parcel 449, and on Tax Map 9F located at no number Georgia Avenue Northwest and 406 Crane Highway North, Glen Burnie, from a split of R5 Residential and C3 General Commercial to C4 Highway Commercial.
Ms. Pickard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the companion amendment changing the zoning that we just voted to change the land use based on the description. As you look up and down Crane Highway, you know, there's C4 and C3 and intermingled all up and down this commercial area. So this property owner is a longtime small local business, and I was happy to support to make their property, give their property the highest best use for the area. Motion to adopt.
Okay. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Administration?
Again, we have an objection.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 4 to bill number 1225.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey. Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 4 to bill 1225 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 5 to bill number 1125.
Amendment number 5. This amendment adds a regional strategy for to the implementation matrix of the Anne Arundel County Region 3 plan related to areas for potential trailhead or park enhancements to improve access to recreational space and green areas.
Ms. Pickard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment adds a strategy, yes, HC7 to the implementation matrix to study specific areas for potential trailhead or park enhancements at 4 specific locations: 8450 Elverton Road, Millersville; 326 Greenway Southeast, Glen Burnie; 8140 Jumpers Hole Road, Millersville; Central Avenue, Greenway Street Northwest, Crane Highway. These are all properties that are adjacent or abutting current county park, and motion to adopt.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
May I just add,
Yes.
I want to thank the folks at the table I'm moving through tonight. But I want to thank y'all for helping help us craft the language for this amendment and come up with the idea. So thank you very much.
Administration?
We have no objection. Thank you.
All right. Madam Secretary? So, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 5 to bill number 1125.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard. Mr. Volkey. Ms. Fiedler. Ms. Rodvian. Ms. Ledbetter. And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 5 to bill 1125 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 6 to bill number 1125.
Amendment number 6. This amendment adds a county-wide strategy to the implementation matrix of the Anne Arundel County Region 3 Plan to review zoning categories for privately owned community parks and determine if a new zoning category is needed.
Ms. Pickard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. After discussing this potential amendment with OPZ, it was recommended that this be a countywide strategy amendment to Plan 2040. Study zoning categories of privately owned community park space to determine if a new category of zoning is necessary for space intended to remain open park space, but needs greater flexibility for future projects beyond what is allowed in the open space zoning category. Motion to adopt.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion, Ms. Lee? No. Any discussion? Administration?
We support this. Yeah.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 6 to bill number 1125.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey. Ms. Fiedler. Ms. Rodvian. Ms. Ledbetter. And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 6 to bill 1125 has been adopted.
Bill numbers 1125 and 1225 as amended will be heard again on March 17th, 2025. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 1325.
Bill number 1325, an ordinance concerning zoning, commercial and industrial districts uses animal hospitals and veterinary clinics.
Ms. Fiedler, this is your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is actually a follow-up bill that was brought up during Region 4 when we rezoned, or I rezoned, a property on Route 2 in Arnold that is currently an animal hospital and veterinary clinic that has overnight stays, but at the time was residential. We changed the zoning to C2, but currently under present code, C2 does not allow for overnight stays that are unrelated to a medical treatment, and did some cleaning up of the actual use chart. Presently, the use chart has animal hospitals and veterinary clinics at the very top of the commercial use chart, with permission for C4 or permitted use in C4. And then at the bottom of the use chart for commercial, our veterinary clinics of overnight stays are limited to those necessary for medical treatment without outside runs or pens. And those are permitted in C1, C2, and C3. The bill combines the categories into one and then allows for conditional uses in C1, C2, and C3. And I have an amendment at the appropriate time.
Administration?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the sponsor entertaining our amendments that we send as suggestions. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. All right. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd actually like to discuss something that has come up in conversations with the industry. I know that this is something that we discussed when drafting the bill. So the way that current language is in code, you can have an overnight stay if they're limited to those necessary for medical treatment without outside runs or pens. But that does not mean that any of these facilities don't have an area where they take an animal outdoors for relief at some point in their overnight stay for medical treatment. So the question has come up in the bill, the way that it is written. We have animal hospitals and veterinary clinics that offer overnight stays as conditional in C2 through C3. And then animal hospitals and veterinary clinics with outside runs or pens are permitted through all commercial categories. Those that have hospital overnight stays, they just want to make sure that they're not going to run afoul if they take an animal outside for relief. Because technically they're not allowed to have, it could be interpreted down the road. I know everyone here understands the intent of the legislation, but let's say 10 years down the road, they're questioned for having an area when perhaps someone interprets them as not allowed to have an area.
Lynn Miller, Planning and Zoning. I would say that I don't feel that the Office of Planning and Zoning would interpret that as being an issue, but I don't know if Ms. Kenny wants to opine on that.
Sure, Kelly Kenny, Supervising County Attorney. No, I wouldn't interpret it that way either. I think the intent of this bill is to ensure that there's not a permanent outside area where dogs or other animals are outside for hours on end. But of course, if you have an animal hospital or anywhere where there's animals, you have to have some area where they could go outside and relieve themselves. But I think if they had a coop or some kind of outside run, then they might have an issue that they would run afoul of this. But I think the intent of this is just to make sure that you're not housing the animals outside.
And that is the intent that we discussed during the discussion of the bill. So I just wanted that conversation on the record. There may be an amendment, maybe not, in the future to clarify that particular situation. But I appreciate the feedback and comments.
All right. We will now open the public hearing.
Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith.
If I can ask this point, can I ask what was the sort of impetus for the legislation? Was there a business that were potentially was looking for a space? So not Alfred.
No.
Okay, just check. I was just checking. We've been hooking up Alfred.
I've been hooking up all the animals.
Yeah, I see
days.
that.
No, so there was a business, or is a business, in Arnold that had residential zoning. They had a variance with a really long written agreement that they could house animals for overnight stays as long as they were clients. So they weren't there for medical treatment. They were in not a commercial kennel situation, but an overnight stay. And now that they have C2, their variance was for their use in a residential zone property, and now they're no longer residential, so they're kind of hanging in limbo, which was the reason for this bill.
Thank you.
All right. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 1325. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 1325? Okay. So the public hearing on Bill number 1325 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 1325.
Bill number 1325, an ordinance concerning zoning, commercial and industrial districts, uses animal hospitals and veterinary clinics.
Okay, there is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment clarifies that the size limit for unenclosed coops and runs included is calculated as a whole.
Ms. Fiedler, this is your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This just clarifies, as the summary states, that you could not have multiple enclosed coops or runs that are each individually 1,800. It's 1,800 square feet total. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Administration?
We support.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 to Bill 1325 has been adopted.
Bill number 1325, as amended, will be heard on March 17th, 2025. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 1425.
Bill number 1425, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, archaeological resources.
Mr. Volkey.
We got here faster than I thought we would. Wow. We are moving today. Okay. So we discussed this legislation previously at the work session. The intention with this legislation is to create what I will call more objective standards when it comes to dealing with historical and archaeological resources in the county. So my understanding from the way that things have operated in Anne Arundel County historically is that there is a lot of discretion that is vested in the Office of Planning and Zoning in terms of how to deal with archaeological or historical resources that are found when a site development plan or a development application is submitted. With that, the purpose with this legislation is to create what I will call more objective standards, reducing the subjectivity which rests presently in the Office of Planning and Zoning. I have appreciated the feedback from the Office of Planning and Zoning. While we certainly are interested in hearing public feedback this evening, I will tell everybody up front, I'm going to make a motion at the end of public testimony to hold the bill because my understanding is that Office of Planning and Zoning is continuing to work on potential amendment to this that might hew toward more of a mid-course, whereas I feel maybe the positioning of the department is too far on one position, and maybe the department feels that my suggested route in terms of the legislation is too far on another position. Well, maybe they don't just maybe feel that way. They definitely feel that way. That being said, there probably is a midpoint that we can find, and so we're looking for that. So in an effort to continue in good faith to work toward whatever that midpoint may be and any solutions that we can come up with, we will be holding this at hopefully at the conclusion of public testimony. So I just share that with everyone so that they know it up front. With that, I certainly welcome the additional feedback from the department, and if anyone wants to hear my longer comments on this, you can certainly watch the work session where I gave more detail and the department gave a lot of detail too. So thank you.
Would the administration like to weigh in?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do appreciate the sponsor's willingness to hold the bill. We are working with the Office of Law to come up with some language because we do object and oppose the bill as it is currently drafted. And I'm going to turn it over to Office of Planning and Zoning. And I apologize. With me at the table, I have Christina Pompa, our Deputy Planning and Zoning Officer, Darian Beverungen, our Acting Planning Administrator for Cultural Resources, and Kelly Kenny, our Supervising County Attorney. Thank you.
Christina Pompa with the Office of Planning and Zoning. I don't have any prepared comments this evening, but I did read all of the testimony that came in online. And, you know, I've been doing this work over 3 decades, and sometimes, like, you know, things are very, very technical. So when I read the comments, what I really liked was it said in a variety of ways everything we said during the work session, but maybe through the lens and the eyes of other people who are working in the profession. And I really wanted to highlight, you know, there's testimony here from the Council for Maryland Archaeology and Preservation Maryland. And, you know, again, there are echoes of the concerns that the decision-making moves from the Office of Planning and Zoning to the developer. I mean, obviously it's a long letter, but I'm just going to pull a couple things out of some of the letters that came in. Mr. Robinson Jr., he's actually the chair of the Charles County Historic Preservation Commission. Bill 1425 will prevent Anne Arundel County from protecting and preserving even the most significant archaeological sites in the future. When such an action is taken by one Maryland county, it places the preservation goals of all Maryland counties at risk. We got a letter here from Dr. Al Lukenbach and Donna Ware. Dr. Lukenbach was the county's archaeologist from 1988 to 2014, and Donna Ware was the county's historic preservation planner. And again, we said similar comments in our talking points, but just as the Office of Planning and Zoning relies on professions in the fields of forestry and wetland management to make the important decisions about the protection of woodlands and wetlands in any proposed development, it is also essential that historic preservation and archaeology professionals make those determinations. Protection of woodlands, wetlands, historic resources, and archaeological sites should not be determined by the developer who stands to benefit from the resource destruction. Joseph Thomas, I thought this was super eloquent. Although I'm not an archaeologist, years of working with them have taught me the power of these irreplaceable resources to illuminate the past, especially for people in our past who don't often appear in other records. Anne Arundel County has many such stories to tell, and the county, working together with developers, has had an extraordinary level of success in sharing the stories from those resources with our citizens using the current process outlined in 176502. Tina Simmons, she has worked with cemeteries and genealogical research for the last 40 years. There are a number of sites in the county with no existing tombstones which are still known to be burial grounds. Many are African American or American Indian. A developer should not be the decision maker deciding whether or not a site should be considered as needing preservation. And the comments go on from a number of other people, but I think that gives flavor and I think adds emphasis in a different way of saying what we said in our talking points in a very technical way.
Any discussion from my colleagues? All right. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 1425. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 12 pieces which have been shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. We have one person signed up ahead of time, Jane Cox. And if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 1425, you may come up at this time as well.
I am a professional archaeologist, a historic preservationist. I have served for over a decade on the Governor's Advisory Committee on Archaeology, providing oversight and advice to the Maryland Historical Trust. Until recently, as many of you know, I served as the administrator for the county's Cultural Resources Program. I am here tonight to oppose the bill, and I'm very thankful that there is an opportunity to provide some more input. And I'm looking forward to hopefully providing as much guidance as I can as an outside a former employee. Bill 1425 would upend the county's ability to protect its archaeological resources in a meaningful way. It proposes removing the authority of the county's Office of Planning and Zoning to approve if and when a significant archaeological resource would be adversely impacted. And it places in the hands of the developer the decision as to whether they want to preserve a site or whether they would want to proceed to destroy it through data recovery. There are no requirements in the bill right now for good faith negotiations or expectations that the developer should consider alternatives, and perhaps that's something that could be worked through on some amendments and some alternative concepts. Procedurally, data recovery and subsequent destruction of a site is meant to be an act of last resort, to be pursued only after all parties have diligently explored and considered alternatives. There is certainly a time and a place for data recovery and mitigation, but it shouldn't be the first go-to option. The county has to have a place at that table and within the conversation, or the reality is that the county and its professional staff could no longer have the tools it needs to uphold the goals that are actually stated in the General Development Plan. Goal BE 14 in the GDP states that the county is supposed to protect and preserve the significant historic and archaeological resources and cultural heritage of the county. This bill would undermine that ability to do so. So we need to make sure we give the tools to the Planning and Zoning Office that they need to be able to accomplish the GDP goals. I urge the council to go back to the drawing board, and thank you very much for that consideration. I look forward to contributing more public comment in the future.
Thank you. Somebody jump in.
My name is Paul Spadaro. I'm president of the Magothy River Association, and tonight I'd like to talk about MRA's opposition to Bill 1425. My friends, history is all around us. We just have to open our eyes to see it. MRA has a long-standing living history project where we understand what the Magothy was like 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. We can develop programs to restore it. My friends, Maryland has 4 centuries of history. Understanding history is a governmental aspect of our society, just like protecting our environment. There are no Republican or Democratic yellow perch. There's no Republican or Democratic millstone that's that belongs to Adam Dash's grist mill at Lake Waterford. No Republicans or Democrats were stationed at Mount Misery at Fort Gray. It is our responsibility, it is your responsibility of a council to guarantee that history is preserved. Bill 1425 is a giveaway to the development community. It makes the developer responsible to write historic reviews. My friends, I have been president for 30 years, and I have never read a traffic study that passed as I sat in Route 2. By making the developer pay for studies and reports only leads to abuse. In the case of Mount Misery, when the developer was required to do an historic report, that report concluded there was no evidence of Fort Gray and no evidence of the New York troops, even though we have letters written home for those people. My friends on this council, it is a responsibility to protect the environment, but it's also a responsibility to protect our history. Please do not support this bill as written.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Richard Striner. I'm a historian and historic preservation advocate. I sent a letter to you all dated February 24th. I'm not going to repeat the points I made there. I want to support the testimony from Office of Planning and Zoning. I was a professor of history at Washington College for 30 years. Before that, I founded and led a regional historic preservation nonprofit group in Greater Washington, D.C. I'm retired now, and I'm looking to get into action again in historic preservation here in Anne Arundel County. And one of the first things that struck me when I turned my attention to the preservation status quo in this county is that Anne Arundel County, possessing one of the crown jewels of East Coast preservation, historic Annapolis, the state capital, the county seat, Annapolis exists in a county with no historic preservation ordinance, no historic preservation commission, a county that is far behind other counties in the state when it comes to a theme that should be and is, by dint of the fame of historic Annapolis, essential to this county's identity. So I am here to speak on behalf of a long-term transcendent legislative agenda. I've been told that a historic preservation ordinance here would require a charter amendment. Well, if so, as John F. Kennedy said long ago, let us begin. We are far behind other jurisdictions in the state when it comes to historic preservation. Let's begin catching up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Esther Doyle Reed. I am a professor at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County in the Ancient Studies Department. I've been a professional archaeologist for 46 years, and in 1990, I was your assistant county archaeologist at the very beginning of the program. This program is exceptional. What it has done, what it has preserved over the past 30-some-odd years is amazing. I am now the county archaeologist in a county south of here, Charles County, and I am the first county archaeologist that they have. I've been there for 10 years, and I modeled my program on this program. What we have that you don't have is a commission that meets every month where developers, citizens, and the professional community can come together and talk through these problems. I do not make decisions unilaterally. I discuss them with my professional colleagues, with the development community, and with the citizens of Charles County who are very concerned about their history. We have a rich history too. I don't want to brag on us, but ours is great. I would suggest that you do review this bill, because as it stands, what it has done is taken the authority of the county and the people of the county away. There is no recourse for a private citizen to ask, please, can we talk about this? Even the 7 of you will not have the ability to step in because of the way the bill's written. And thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing on Bill number 1425 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 1425.
Bill number 1425, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, archaeological resources.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the testimony. I appreciate that. It's helpful. I did have a couple questions for the Office of Planning and Zoning, because I'm hearing the comments that this will completely put all of the power in the hands of the developer. So I did want to ask you about the bill as drafted, just to make sure that I'm fully understanding the way that you all are seeing it. So on page 2 of the bill, under section B, significant resources, you can see there, if the Office of Planning and Zoning determines that an archaeological resource is significant based on the findings of the Phase 2 survey. So it sounds like, at first blush, Office of Planning and Zoning still does have the ability to determine, number one, as a threshold matter, is there an archaeological resource that is of significance based on this Phase 2 survey that needs to be protected? So that sounds like step 1, which is something that the Office of Planning and Zoning still retains that authority. Am I understanding that correctly? Because I don't think the developer is picking whether it is an archaeological resource of enough significance. It appears to me, the way the bill is written, that it is actually OPZ that decides that, but I want to make sure that I understand.
Sorry, Darian Beberungen, Acting Administrator for Cultural Resources. So yes, the developer shall conduct a Phase 2 survey to determine the extent of the site and level of its significance. And then section B, it says based on the findings of the Phase 2 survey. So yes, we would still be able to say, yes, the site is significant, or no. The next part, though, shall either.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that
Okay.
next. But I guess where I'm trying to go with this is, I'm hearing a lot of testimony, and I've seen a lot of testimony that came in publicly from people who are saying this completely guts the Office of Planning and Zoning's role in this entire process. You all lose your role. This is a complete developer giveaway. That's what people are saying. And so I want to understand, if I'm following the way this bill is structured correctly, first, the Phase 2 survey is going to be conducted and completed by the developer. They are then going to provide that to the Office of Planning and Zoning, and then you all are still independently going to make a determination as to whether or not there is a significant archaeological resource. That's step 1.
Correct.
Okay. Then we move to step 2, which is where you were going already, which is shall either. And so then it gives the options. It appears option 1 is, I believe, what you all are doing now, right? Where there's a planned development to preserve or mitigate adverse impacts to the resource and execute and deliver to the Office of Planning and Zoning a preservation easement to protect it. That's what I think you're doing now. Is that right?
Correct. That's
Okay.
following best practices is to avoid
Understood.
when there's a significant site and preserve under easement.
Okay, and so that's option 1. And then
Yes.
option 2 is, if for some reason the developer said, I don't really want to do that, then we are creating this new avenue that allows for a Phase 3 data recovery plan to be prepared by a qualified archaeologist, which shall be reviewed by the Office of Planning and Zoning for approval. So when I'm reading that, it seems to me that the Office of Planning and Zoning, again, receives the Phase 3 study and again would have to approve or potentially deny that Phase 3 study. So this is where I'm struggling with folks who are saying that this takes all the authority out of planning and zoning, because I'm not quite sure that that's what the language of the bill does. So if I'm misunderstanding it, certainly please educate me. But when I read the plain language, it appears that you all have a seat at the table at the phase 2 study to determine whether this is significant or not. And then the developer has two options, or the applicant, I should say. Option 1 is what you're doing currently. Option 2 is to complete this phase 3 study that then they still have to put in front of the Office of Planning and Zoning for you all to consider. So let me know which part of this I'm misunderstanding in terms of what it is that we're doing that completely sort of neuters your ability to be impactful here.
Christina Pompa with the Office of Planning and Zoning. So when you get down here to number 2, submit a phase 3 data recovery plan. So there are two things here. How are you going to do what you're going to do on the site, which is the plan, and then you're going to execute it with shovels and backhoes and whatever else? So I feel that this language, and Kelly Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, basically we get to look at the plan that they put in front of us of what they're going to do to the site, but we don't have, you've taken away all of our ability to say, but you can still develop over here, and it still allows them to completely destroy the site.
So I guess my question would be this language for approval. If the inverse of approval obviously is disapproval, or what we sometimes refer to as denial, right? So conceptually, if the applicant has to submit something to the Office of Planning and Zoning for approval, then the inherent power that the Office of Planning and Zoning retains is the ability to step back and say, we're not going to approve. So that's the part where I'm not quite following when people are saying that this is completely destroying everything that we do, because you all still seem to have the ability to deny. And if you read the plan, the phase 3 study, and you say, we don't agree with this, we think what you're trying to do is outrageous, then you deny them. And if they think you're wrong, then they have appeal rights that they can pursue, and they can go forward with that, which is anything any applicant has based on a decision that's made by the Office of Planning and Zoning. But what I'm trying to understand is, what in here do you all interpret to mean that you are absolutely lockstep required to accept whatever is put in front of you, and you have lost all ability to have input? Because, Ms. Pompa, to respond to your point, if you can deny something, then you deny it, or you go back to the developer, applicant, whatever you want to call them, and you say, hey, we don't agree with what you're trying to do, so we want to go a different avenue with this. We want you to do something else on the site, or we want you to do something different in terms of your phase 3 recovery plan. And if we get that from you, we're more than willing, that's in the comment phase, right? We're more than willing to come back and revisit our decision, but otherwise we're leaning toward denying you. I'm not clear on how this language takes away all your authority. So if anybody can clarify that, I appreciate it.
I think if the applicant says that they have followed the standards and guidelines, I don't know that with this language we can deny. And that means that they are free to do a phase 3. I mean, it really, I think, green lights the phase 3 much more than we have had in the past 20 years.
I would agree with you that it creates the phase 3 option. I think you want to jump, please.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, to get to a phase 3, you really do have to, standards say you have to exhaust all other options. So with the language, either 1 or 2, it puts them on an equal playing field. Like let's just jump to a phase 3 without exhausting all other options and the possibilities before we get to a phase 3, which is something that, we would look at earlier on to determine, okay, do you have other options? If so, then you don't go to the phase 3. But this, at least how I read it, is yes, they could do either or.
Understood. If they choose the option that you don't like, meaning they don't, in your opinion, exhaust all options, and they move to this phase 3 study, and they come in and they present that to you, Ms. Kenny, do you think that Office of Planning and Zoning, under the language in this bill, has lost the ability to say no and deny?
Kelly Kenny, Supervising County Attorney. I think this discussion helps a little bit in coming up with an amendment that we are working on, because I'm understanding a little bit more of what you're getting at. I already understand what OPZ is getting at. I think what the language is missing is a little bit of some criteria for OPZ to look at when they're looking at whether they can approve or disapprove, because like Ms. Pompa said, the language does almost seem to indicate that if it adheres with the published standards, that OPZ is almost forced to approve it. And I think that's really what the concern is. And it does seem to indicate, as they've mentioned as well, that the developer could just bypass option number 1 and go straight to the phase 3. And maybe we need some language in there, going through maybe what the exhaustion of those other outcome or remedies isn't the right word, but the exhaustion of the other options would be before you get to that point. Because I think that the concern that I'm hearing from everybody, and the way I'm interpreting it too, is it does seem to indicate that developer can just bypass number 1, not even look at a way to develop the site around that, and then just go straight to the phase 3 and kind of box OPZ into having to approve it as long as they can get it to comply with the standards. And that's really what the concern is. So I think we're missing kind of something to look at for OPZ to either approve or disapprove that phase 3, and something maybe to indicate when you would or would not get to the phase 3.
Yeah, I certainly think those may be worthwhile amendments to add to the bill. I think the challenge that I'm struggling with is, in reading this, I don't see anywhere that Office of Planning and Zoning has lost their teeth, for lack of a better word, in terms of their ability to say yes or no, right? And to say, we're going to enforce what we think is a significant archaeological resource, and as a result, we are going to deny and say disapproved, right? I don't see where this says Office of Planning and Zoning is in every situation simply a rubber stamp. And so that's why I'm asking, is it your opinion from the Office of Law that as drafted, this says Office of Planning and Zoning, you're out, you're literally a rubber stamp?
It doesn't say that completely, but the way that it's worded, where it says it shall be submitted for approval without indicating what the criteria is for approval, almost does appear like it's just almost a rubber stamp situation to me. That really is where I'm seeing some of the concern that the others are seeing.
I suppose the inverse is, absent the criteria, it sort of vest a lot of discretion and authority in the Office of Planning and Zoning to make that up or down decision, right? With the lack of objective criteria, again, we sort of land back in the world that we're in now,
right,
where Office of Planning and Zoning has a lot of say in what happens without that. So I think maybe both sides would benefit from that objective criteria, maybe the applicants as well as the office. But I guess that's just the piece of this that I keep hearing over and over again, is that Office of Planning and Zoning is being cut out, and this is a complete, green light for developers to, as someone put in their testimony, if you've ever heard the Joni Mitchell song, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. I'm like, well, we've heard that one before. But my point is, that is the perception on this, right? Is that this is a complete green light to just plow down everything, all history, get rid of it. And I would challenge that, as I'm doing right now, because I don't see anywhere in this legislation that it says that. I think what's happened is someone read this bill and someone interpreted it that way, and they likely went out and told a lot of other people, you've got to read this bill, this is what this is, without having independently read it. And so that's why I'm looking for Office of Law to come in as an objective voice and say, am I wrong, right? Does this require approval? I don't think it does. And I don't hear you saying it requires approval either. You're saying there's an interpretation, maybe one way, maybe the other, but it's not blatantly, yes, this is an approval.
Right, but it is concerning, as I indicate, the way it's worded, that it almost does. If somebody gives you a plan that complies with the standards, then OPZ is forced to approve it, and that's really what the concern is.
Hence our need for a hold-in amendments. But
right.
But I want to try to level set a little bit, because I think by and large the testimony has been, this is the most awful thing ever. This is a terrible piece of legislation. That's all these things, and I'm trying to make sure that people understand. Maybe the things that they heard are not exactly what's in the bill, but I think it sometimes takes time for people to have to read the words.
So I want to thank everyone who's testified tonight and that has sent us in testimony. It was very thoughtful, very professional. We heard from some of the top people in archaeology and historic preservation from throughout the state. And that was, I particularly appreciated the people who said, what if we got a work group with these experts, and also some from the development community who are feel that sometimes they are hindered by too strict of interpretations if we brought people together. And so I appreciate Mr. Volke putting a hold on this so that we can explore this further and look at some amendments. While I understand what he's saying about the close reading of this, I also can see the view that of the interpretation that it gives too much authority, too much freedom on the development side and takes some away from OPZ. So I think that we can find some better language there that would get more in the middle of where we are. I said this at the work session a couple of weeks ago, and I will say it again. I agree with our speakers who said it's embarrassing that our county does not have an historic preservation commission of any kind on here when we're one of the most historic places for the history of our country in the entire United States. So we need to remedy that. It's in our plan 2040, and we should be following up on that. So I hope that this bill is opening the door to that so that we can go further and bringing us up to speed on where we should be in historic preservation for the county. So any other comments, Mr. Volke? Would you like to do?
Yeah, I would. Thank you, Madam Chair. So at this time, I'll make a motion to hold Bill 1425 until our March 17th meeting. Make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to hold the vote on Bill number 1425 until March 17th.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold the vote to Bill number 1425 until March 17th has passed.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 1525.
Bill number 1525, an ordinance concerning zoning, parking, outdoor lighting, and signage, measurement of signage area.
Ms. Pickard, this is your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bill 1525 is related to signage. This bill revises how the signage area is calculated by removing a background color as qualifying as part of the sign area. For example, a gas station may have a certain colored stripe that is used on all sides of the pumping canopy, and a portion of the stripe falls behind their logo. The remaining facades of the gas station pump with the stripe only will no longer be calculated in the signage area, only the portion with the logo and lettering. This is just a basic good government bill. We have been sending small business owners to get a variance, which is to the hearing officer, and we could just simplify the language in the code and cut out that step. So I urge my colleagues' support.
All right, administration.
We support. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 1525. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
No one signed up to speak ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 1525? Okay. The public hearing on Bill number 1525 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 1525.
Bill number 1525, an ordinance concerning zoning, parking, outdoor lighting, and signage, measurement of signage area.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Volke.
It's a lot of money you're taking out of the land use attorney's pocket for these variances they've been working on. So I just want to make that point publicly that this may be tough for them.
Yes, this is definitely, thank you, Mr. Volke. That's a good point. Our code is often a jobs program for land use attorneys, and this is definitely going to take a little work off their plate, put it back into the control of the small business owner. So I appreciate that.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 1525.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 1525 is passed.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll. No, please read the title of Bill number 1625. Jumping ahead a bit there.
Bill number 1625, an ordinance concerning zoning requirements for special exception uses, assisted living facilities, community piers, and launching ramps.
Ms. Fiedler, this is your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill alters the special exception section of the code for height limitations for assisted living facilities to give a little bit of flexibility only on larger parcels, those over 20 acres, to go slightly above bulk regs in height for additional units. As we know, we have a very large aging population. It also alters the special exception for piers and launching ramps for community piers, adding language related to assisted living facilities. Current special exception code refers to communities. Assisted living facilities are communities as well, and allows for disturbance to the buffer for required ADA access. As we know, some of our residents who live in assisted living facilities do require assistance to be mobile. And I will have an amendment at the appropriate time.
Okay. Administration, you have anything?
Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mr. Smith?
I was just going to ask either the administration or the sponsor. Thank you, Madam Chair. How many of these sites currently exist in the county that could be like 20 acres and larger? You know.
Currently, I believe only one, but anyone could develop on a 20-acre parcel and utilize.
All right. Any other? Okay. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 1625. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay. No one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 1625? Okay. The public hearing on Bill number 1625 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 1625.
Bill number 1625, an ordinance concerning zoning requirements for special exception uses, assisted living facilities, community piers, and launching ramps.
Okay, there is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment limits the increased height allowed for assisted living facilities on properties over 20 acres.
Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When reviewing this legislation with the administration, it was recognized, and thank you to the administration, that Bill 7224, the moderately priced dwelling unit bill, had a whole slew of changes to bulk regulations, which impacted the intent of flexibility, the amount of flexibility really necessary or desired in this bill. So the amendment tweaks it with that consideration in mind. It's hard to go back and talk about all of the bulk regs. Ms. Pickard probably knows them like the back of her hand. But this just is a reflection, this amendment is a reflection of the language in Bill 7224. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Administration?
We appreciate the sponsor's willingness to put in this amendment and take our feedback, and we're happy to answer any questions. And we support.
Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a note, there will be additional amendments at our next meeting to conform to some of the language in Bill 7224. That bill doesn't go into effect until July 1. So when you're looking at current code, it's not in there, which creates this weird timing situation that we'll rectify at the next meeting. But thank you for your support on this amendment this evening.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Mr. Smith? Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer? 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 to Bill 1625 has been adopted.
Bill number 1625 as amended will be heard on March 17th, 2025. As you are all aware, on February 23rd, 2025, the county was struck by a cyber attack of external origin. The repercussions the departments are facing are ongoing. While we know that the county is continuing to work diligently to secure our systems due to the ongoing nature of the incident and investigation of the cyber attack, to discuss this further, the council should go into a closed meeting to receive updates from the county executive's office. May I have a motion to move into closed session as permitted under Maryland law, Section 3-305B15, to discuss the ongoing cybersecurity incident with members of the county executive staff?
Move the motion.
Second?
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Smith. Ms. Pickard. Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Radbian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold a closed session to discuss the cyber tech issues has passed.
Is there any other business any council member would like to bring before the county council at this time? May I have a motion to adjourn the legislative session?
Ledbetter, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. County Council is adjourned to go into closed session directly following this meeting. The meeting to the public is adjourned until Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 at 9 a.m. for a work session here in Chambers.